This week in my Productivity Mastery series, I want to talk to you about the objectives of a project. What exactly is the outcome of your project that you are looking for? Now, this is one of the problems I always found with GTD when I used GTD, is that it got you to actually list out all the action steps that you needed to take in order to complete a project. Now, on the surface, that's a really good idea. Everything that you need to do, all the little action steps, get them all down, listed within the project so that you knew what was going to happen next. And this is where we got things like next actions and all the other things. Now, the problem with managing a project that way is that you end up micromanaging the project and you start putting in a lot of the trivialities, the little things that really you don't necessarily need to think about because they're just going to happen. And so one of the reasons why I started to shift away from GTD was because I found myself being caught up in thinking, well, there's only 3 tasks in here, but it's such a big project, I need more tasks. And then I would start looking for and breaking things down just way too small so that the tasks themselves didn't make any meaningful contribution to the overall completion of the project. And this is a problem I've seen so many times over the last 2 years in my coaching program, where people have really micromanaged a project and pulled out all the tiny little tasks, and they've ended up with 20 to 30 tasks within a project list. And then they say, I'm overwhelmed. But actually, if you stop and you look at the tasks themselves, most of them probably would take less than 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and they're not going to contribute significantly to the actual project completion itself. So one of the things that you need to do is when you start planning out a project, and this is another reason why I strongly believe that project planning does not want to be in a to-do list manager. Your project planning needs to be in your notes app. So you can look at the big picture view of the project. You can then identify the 20% tasks that are going to give you those 80% of the results. And they're always in there. Now, losing weight and let's just imagine, I did this in a blog post recently, was imagine that you wanted to become a world champion bodybuilder. Now, how do you become a world champion bodybuilder? There's a lot of tasks involved in there. Find the right gym, find the right personal trainer, find the right diet. There's a lot of research, but really, what are the 20% actions that's going to give you any chance of becoming a champion bodybuilder? That's going into the gym and lifting weights and eating the right food. Now I've done a lot of research in exercise. I have discovered that if you really wanted to build a really muscular frame, a really muscular body, then it's 70% diet. It's only about 30% the amount of effort you're doing lifting the weights. So you got to figure out what are the tasks that are really going to make sure that you achieve the project outcome that you want. And in bodybuilding, that's getting into the gym and lifting those weights, and it's eating the right foods. Now, researching the right personal trainer, researching the gym, researching the kind of exercise program that you want to follow, they are important, but they're not on their own going to do much to contribute to your overall goal. They won't build muscle, they won't make you look good. All it will do is just give you more information inside your head. Now, at some point, you've got to stop with that information, get into the gym, start lifting weights, and adapt as you're doing it. As you do that, that's where you're going to get the most progress. Another one I come across quite frequently are people who are wanting to start their own business. Now, there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of how to start a business. What are you going to sell? What service are you going to provide? What product are you going to sell? What website? What branding? All sorts of things. But really, at the end of the day, starting your own business is developing the service or product that you want to sell and selling the product. Because unless you're selling something, you have no business. You just have an idea. And you might have a flashy website, and you might have a flashy branding and logo and typeface and all this lot, but that is not going to provide you with an income. What will provide you with an income is if you have a service or you have a product. So to me, if I was starting another business, my goal would be to develop the product and develop whatever the service and make sure that is on sale first. I will adapt the branding, I will adapt the messaging, I will adapt the website and everything else that will come after it. Those things are important, but they're not the 80% task. Developing the product, building a product and selling a product, those are your 80% tasks. Those are the core tasks that are going to drive things forward. And you've really got to get very, very clear about what are the actions that you take that are going to have the biggest impact on your projects and your goals that will drive you towards the success that you really want. Don't get caught up in the trivialities. They are always there, and some of them are important. Some of them you are going to have to do, but they're not going to contribute very much towards the overall success of the project. You really have to step back, build out the project plan in your Notes app, and then decide which are those tasks that you do every single day that are going to drive that project forward, they're going to drive you towards achieving that goal. Because at the end of the day, that is the only way you'll do it. I remember in the days when I was trying to give up smoking many, many years ago, and I would be reading all these articles and watching all these YouTube videos on how to do it. And I realized at the time, this was not actually helping me to quit smoking. The only way to quit smoking was to stop. And that is the hardest thing. And of course, anyone who used to be a smoker who has given up, you know how hard that is, just being able to stop. But you know in your mind that that is the only action step you can make that will give you success in that particular goal. Researching, reading, coming up with different plans to do it will never achieve that goal. The only way you'll achieve that goal is just to stop. And it's the same with any bad habit. The only way you are going to be able to stop bad habits is to stop the habit itself. And you need to become much more aware. That's the 80% task. So you want to be looking for those tasks that will really drive the project forward. And some of them are not always obvious. I've just given you some obvious examples here, but we all have many, many different projects. I know that if I'm building, as I've recently been doing, building a program, a language program for a client of mine, really, I can spend all day, I can spend weeks developing the perfect proposal, but really the core task that's going to make this program successful is developing the slides, developing the workshop and developing the workbook. Those are the 80% tasks. The proposal is part of the 20% task. It's an important part, it gets me the business, but once I've got the business, what really matters is the content that I'm going to teach to the students in the class. That's the 80%. So be very aware of your 80% tasks. Those are the real drivers of any project success. And don't get caught up in those trivialities. They're everywhere and they can sneak up on you. And you've really got to be very, very aware of what you are doing and thinking, is this taking this project further forward or is this just a triviality? Always be aware of that. Now, thank you very much for watching this episode. It just remains for me now to wish you all a very, very productive week. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. Now, I'd like to introduce you to a brand new way of managing your tasks. Now, this system is called the time sector system. It's designed to do away with your projects, to do away with your goals, or at least do away with them from your time management system, your to-do list manager, and instead focuses on when you are going to do the task. Now, the reason for this is from a research that I did for the whole of last year, figuring out why most people were really struggling with their tasks, getting their tasks done on a day-to-day basis. What I discovered was they were managing their tasks by project. And the biggest problem with managing tasks by project is, first of all, deciding whether a task is a project or not. 2 or more tasks becomes a project, which means that you end up with a huge project list. And once you have a huge project list, just managing that list takes up an awesome amount of time. Time you could better be spent actually doing the work, not organizing. The time sector method is designed to do away with all that processing so that the only decision you have to make is when are you going to do a task. And let's be honest, it doesn't matter how motivated, inspired, how urgent a task is. If you don't have time to do it, it is never going to get done. So I have launched a brand new course that gives you the step-by-step approach of setting up the time sector method. It's a revolutionary course. It's designed for the 21st century. For all the inputs that we get today, all the emails, the Slack messages, and everything else that comes our way, it's designed to deal with that, to manage that so you stay focused on what you have identified are your most important tasks for the day. I'd love to see you in the course. Full details of the course are in the show notes below. I'd love you to check it out. Join me in the course and let's take your productivity to a greater level than you've ever imagined. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. I just wish you all a very, very productive week.